This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we're just going to go skip introductions because we were already talking about disability and stuff. So continue on what you were saying, John.
Hi, I'm John. That's Kim. That's Andrea. That's Louise.
Everyone wave.
So yeah, Andrea, getting disability is difficult. I feel like I'm going to be denied again because they don't know how much. Sometimes they don't understand how it's progressive. And just because I could work in 2020, I couldn't work. Yeah.
But you said that you didn't have enough work credits, that you think that that might be because you have to work, get to like pay in for like 10 years.
Yep. And the place that I worked in undergrad, bar, cash under the table.
Oh, so that's where you're getting your ass bit on.
Yeah.
So it's not that you didn't work, it just didn't count.
Like, I'm in college, everyone. Like, here's my degrees on the wall. Could you please call me disabled because I don't want to have to pay for those student loans? You know? At least with disability, I forgive that. So that's nice.
So, okay, let me tell you about the student loan portion. Okay, so
Tell me
if
about
your
yourself.
medical review, if you get accepted with disability, you have a medical review every so many years. If the medical review is every 5 years, they'll discharge your loans. If it's less than that, mine is every 4 years, they will not automatically discharge your loans. So you could be on disability for 20 or 30 years and your loans are not discharged. However,
that's my middle finger to Social Security.
Right. However, you can give your provider paperwork for them to fill out for you. And once they do that, they'll say, okay, your loans are going to be discharged, but we're going to put you on probation for like 3 years. And that 3 years, you can't make, you're not making the money that they would say that you'd have to make anyway, for 3 years. And then after 3 years, then they'll discharge your loans. So it's not immediate, but it does. And then once the paperwork's filled out and you're on that probation 3-year period, your loans, like they go, you won't get any more information from your student loan people, forbear anything. You'll hear nothing from them. It goes, but you have it right now on income-based repayment plan, right? So it's zero anyway right now for you, right?
Yeah. Sorry, my hair was bugging me, so I put on a hat.
It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, so it just depends on if you get accepted with disability, how often the med review is. If it's every 5 years, they'll automatically discharge it. If it's not, then you have to jump through another hoop and have your doctor fill out paperwork. And the paperwork, don't quote me on this one, John, but I think you have to wait like 5 years until you were considered disabled to get the discharge. It's not something you can just do right away, because I think I had to wait a little bit. But
my doctors eat out of my hands, right? So I'll be able to get that.
Well, it's just nice that your doctors work for you and with you, and they're not working against you.
Yeah.
Like, it was so, for me, TMI, but when I had my hypomania and I had my delusions after my surgery because I had no sleep for a week, it was so nice that my PCP, my normal gals, looked at me like, well, duh, yeah, if you had slept for a week, yeah, it's normal to have delusions. Like, she didn't look at me like I was insane or crazy. She's like, well, duh, and that was just really comforting for her to be like that versus like, I don't know, Kim, you could be kind of, scary now. I don't know if I can have you as a patient. She was like, yeah, you're fine. You didn't sleep. You need to sleep. I'm like, yeah, I need to sleep.
Yeah, like I missed a week, and it's hard to think that it's November when I had my surgery in September, or however months work. Whatever 2 are together, pick 2. That is weird though to have to sleep for a week. It must be very jarring.
It was.
So I'm just worried that I'm not disabled enough. Like,
I think you are. It's just tough. Like, can you work? Okay, when you talked previously on previous sessions that we've had here, you struggled working 40 hours a week, and you would say, I can't believe that they haven't fired me yet. You'd say that.
Yeah.
So, and you have to talk to the lawyer that you get a hold of, the disability lawyer. And to my understanding, what he told me, it's like based on being able to work full time. If you can't work full time, then it's considered disabled. If you can work part time, that doesn't count. Or if you can work up and make up a certain wage, then you're not eligible for it. But no, if you're struggling working like 40 hours a week or full time, then you would be eligible for disability. And then I asked him this weird question. I remember saying, well, what happens if I write a book and it's a bestseller? Do I get kicked off? He's like, no, because you're not working full time, like regularly full time writing a book or something. So he was very insightful, and he had all these questions, answered all these questions that I had. So I would recommend for you to do, I'm sorry I'm pushing you so hard. And the only reason I'm pushing you so hard is because I had someone push me so hard. Because I really struggled I applied for disability. I got denied twice. I said, forget this. And then this gal then pushed me super hard, going, no, you need to start up again right now with a lawyer. And she was like tough love to me, seriously. But she was right. But it was really hard to go like, yeah, I need help. This is hard and it's frustrating and everything like that. So sorry, that was my day. Hi, Michelle. Welcome. We just said hello to everybody.
Hello, I'm sorry. Hello.
Hi, welcome.
I,
Good to see
Hi.
you.
Hi.
I have so much paperwork, not to fill out for my meeting with the guy. It is a guy,
Mhm.
so I would say a guy. But it's all about like, is this all correct? And it's like 30 pages. So I get to go through and highlight anything that's wrong and re-explain it. So it's really good to have someone by your side to help you with it. And every person I've ever met working Social Security has been really nice to me and is more than happy to explain everything 40 times. Because they're like, no, you are here for a reason, for disability. I'm not paid more or less based on how many people I get, approved or denied. So help me help you.
Yeah, and the paralegal or the legal assistant for the lawyer disability
Yeah.
will walk you through everything, and they take care of all the extra stuff. And that is, trust me, you want that, especially when they give you, I don't know if John has received it yet, but they gave you a packet to fill out and says, explain to me how much you suck. And it's, that's pretty devastating to tell you how much I suck right now and why I can't work.
I
And
did it
that's like,
online.
yeah, but physically and mentally, and then I'm dealing with fatigue. It's like, how do you? And you have to describe why you suck so bad,
Yeah.
and that go through that paperwork was devastating for me because it just really showed and opened up my eyes, like how how much I had changed and how terrible I was. And then I asked my lawyer, since I work for my parents part time, I'm like, should my parents write me a thing for the lawyer? And they said, absolutely. You need to show what problems you're having, what accommodations they're giving to you.
Yeah.
And I talked to my parents. I said, this thing has to be, I want it 100% accurate. There's no embellishment, but it needs to be completely
Yeah.
accurate. And when you read this page and a half letter, it is the most depressing letter you'll ever read because you're like, who would hire this person? She is terrible. How could she even work? And but it was a beautiful snapshot of what I was experiencing currently in my life and how, like, at that point in my life, I couldn't sit up for multiple hours at a time. I'd have to lay on the floor. That's how I was as an employee. Like, I couldn't sit there for greater than 3 hours. I'd have to lay on, like, if I had to listen to the phones, I had to lay on the floor. And I could do anything I wanted to just watching the phones, but nothing would stimulate me enough that I would get super fatigued and have to. And most employers can't handle employees laying on the floor. That's like not really a social thing. But
That's a
that was
fire hazard.
that's
I
that's
feel
where
like
I
there's
was
got
at
to
in my
be some
life.
kind of an OSHA requirement against laying on a office floor.
Yeah, I remember
Bullshit.
the judge asked me, like, are they okay with that? And I said they don't like it, but they deal with it. And then
Right.
obviously if there was a customer coming in or something, I'm not going to be laying on the floor while the customer's there. But yeah, but it was just it was tough to do that note. It sucked, but it was a really great way to be able to take everything that I was experiencing and be able to read it in a third party's eyes and go, yeah, I have issues. Yeah, this is not normal. This is not my normal self. There's something drastically wrong with me.
Yeah.
I can't really work, and it's not all in my head. I can't work. Like I physically and then to talk about the first part of it was all the problems I was having and all the dumbass errors I was doing. Do you know how embarrassing that was? Like how I couldn't do the simplest things and I would F it all up. It was mortifying. But it was true and accurate. There was nothing in there that was exaggerated. So,
Yeah, and don't exaggerate anything, Andrea. Like
but at
put
the same time, don't discount problems you have. That's what my lawyer
yeah,
said. Like,
yeah.
don't be like, oh, well, that sounds too like. No, if you have to lay on the floor, talk about having to lay on the floor. Like, don't be like, oh, it's not all the time. It's a problem. You need to speak up about it, and that's what you need to talk about your lawyer, your doctor. Like, look, what tests do I need to do? What do I need to do to help? Because in disability, they assume, well, if you didn't see anybody, you were doing fine. Not the, oh, you didn't have money and you couldn't afford it. That's why you didn't see the doctor. They're like, oh, you didn't see a doctor, you were fine. So, and then I've always had to tell my providers, like, tend to be an upbeat, cheerful person. And so it always sounds like when I show up, like, oh, I'm doing great, I'm having a great day. And it's like, you got to tone it down because that knocked me on one of the things. They're like, well, she's having the best day ever. And it's like, no, that's just me. It's just me, my personality. Don't
Yeah,
give me to my personality.
yeah.
Well, I
So,
mean, so that opens up like a whole nother aspect of all of this. I feel like I've been dismissed by the medical community for 40 years. I feel like even I mean, everybody, like I have been dismissed as a woman, I don't know, as a patient, as as whatever. I have been dismissed. I have been told that my MS is mild. Um, I have been told, just and that plays a big role in my head as well, right? As I'm going through this process. Um,
and that's the shitty
so
thing about MS too, is like people can say it's mild to you, but it fluctuates, and that's what makes it so frustrating. Is you
And
don't know if you're gonna have a good day or a bad day, if it's gonna be a shitty week, a shitty month, shitty year. You can't
and
tell. Go
no
ahead,
matter
John.
what medicine you're on, it's
Hmm.
still progressing. Like it is not going to get any better.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, um, a lot of people don't understand that. Like, so you're, so they're curing you. Like, they're just making it so I
Yeah.
can walk for another year.
No, it's slowing down the progression. That's all we're working on right
you're
now.
in
It's
you're in remission, right? You're not in a relapse, you're in remission. And they think of it like cancer. And Michelle, you're absolutely right. It does up the stress level. Just knowing that your future does not look bright. In
Yeah, that
fact, there's like a dark cloud over your future. And the stress that that causes on a person, and I like to say that stress is a mass murderer because it will kill you. And
well, they say
yes,
like
we deal with a
80%
lot of
of
stress.
they say like 80% of the reason why we see doctors is stress. If you boil it down, it's all stress related. So,
Um,
yes.
that's what I wanted to say is that, I can't really relate to the things that you're going through, but I hear it. But one of the things that I hear is stress. And for me, stress and MS, it doesn't get along. So I'm wondering, like, how do you deal with the stress of all this?
Well, I actually have to leave about 10 minutes after 2 Eastern because I have a massage scheduled at 2:30. So
Good.
that's one way that I do it.
My
Um,
my best way is listening to my body and following my intuition. I am embarrassed it took me to figure this one out, but my gosh, once I figured it out, I can do things better and longer, and I can overall, because I am not hitting my max and then crumpling to the ground and then taking days or weeks to recover.
Yeah.
So that has been huge
Don't
for me.
feel bad about that taking a long time to figure out. I've been trying to
Yeah.
figure that out for 20 years, and I'm just now starting to make a little bit of progress with it.
Yeah.
And I've also had the privilege that I've been able to have the flexibility to be able to do that. I don't work full time. I work very low part time for my parents. I have a husband that takes care of everything. Like I am super like privileged, and I have super things that a lot of people don't have going for them. And that's huge for me too. I'm not going to, and I have a huge support system, and I can't minimize that. That's absolutely huge. But I think overall, we tend to be very resilient and we can figure things out. And that's one thing great about this group, because we learn about so many things about things, and knowing that we're not alone in dealing with this. And that's huge. Like, oh, I'm not the only one that has massive cog fog and I have the hardest time reading a book. No, we all have that problem. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have one of my friend like long, long friends from high school has a boat, a sailboat not too far from here. And so he's always asking me to go sailing. And my mom's boyfriend is a big time sailor and owns a sailboat and blah blah blah. So he sent me a book on sailing that, he's like a smarty smart. And he learned how to sail through reading books before he ever even got on a boat. And then he taught himself, that way. But this past Saturday, he was like, "Oh, like, have you learned about water or not water, air direction and how it moves the boat?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still on the vocabulary, the like, chapter 1, the vocabulary."
Chapter one.
The
So you bought a
introduction,
boat.
right? The
Maybe
introduction.
even page 1.
So you bought a boat.
Do they have this on audiobook?
Um,
If I
Andrea,
can follow the book and hear it, it really is easier.
um, Andrea, you're around my age. How long have you been watching South Park for?
Um, I don't, I'm in my mid 50s. You're not in your mid 50s.
I'm in my mid
But
40s.
yes, South Park yes, until I was on a cruise with my mom. We were getting ready for bed, and I just had the TV on, and I was like, "Oh, South Park is fun," and it was like Butters going down and doing things he shouldn't do, and a picture was taken, and I'm
Yep.
with my mom, and that was very embarrassing.
Oh
how
my
do we
my.
get on to South Park? I don't.
Oh, because a very early episode of South Park was called the Underpants Gnomes, and the Underpants Gnomes always collect underpants. Step two, profit. So what I try to do, and what I know a lot of us do, is, hey, I want to do bonsai. So we buy a book, we do a bunch of stuff, and we hope to profit. But we don't do all the work between.
Hmm.
And that's why I have 75 hobbies. Sorry, I'm really distracted today. Melissa's on her way home, and she just had an appointment with a surgeon, so I'm just kind of looking around.
For the back surgery, was it back surgery or was it something else? I'm remembering
It was the back surgery. She has 3 discs.
it. Okay. If she has any questions, have her contact me.
Yeah, I'll be like, hey, this is Kim. Just say hi.
So,
She'll be like, oh, Kim from AnCan. I'm like, yeah, Kim from AnCan.
yeah, she had back surgery in May. She'll tell you. She'll tell you a bunch about it. So, what else did y'all like to talk about today?
how explaining MS to someone. Oh,
Mhm.
by the way, I'm having a rough day. I'm really weepy.
Mhm.
Um,
And that's
being able
okay.
to explain to someone what MS is and all the symptoms because they're curious about it for real, and that makes me feel really good because it makes me give more agency over my disease. Like
Mhm.
I can control this because I can explain it to people. I understand it. So it makes me happy when people actually want to know what's going on. Not just like, oh, dude, that sucks. Like, yeah, say it sucks. Say it fucking sucks. I don't give a shit. But still, people that want to understand are,
I find explaining it is very stressful.
yeah.
And I
Do you
find
ever
that,
feel like when you explain it to somebody, you're like end up like trying to make them feel better about it?
Oh, fuck no. No.
that's right. Yeah, I was with a friend and somebody was asking why I had a cane. And this friend started explaining not life skills, MS. I don't know why I said that. Started
We
explaining
gotcha. It's okay.
started explaining MS, and this person just walked away in the middle of the conversation. So it was interesting because I was able to observe what was happening because this person was interested in the question, but as soon as this friend of mine who knows a lot about the process of MS started explaining the myelin sheet, the nervous system, and that's not what he wanted to know. And I don't know, I'm not sure he knew what he wanted to know, but it was so interesting to see him walk away and to see what happened to her. It was just,
My
yeah,
Yeah, you need to break it way down. I have an autoimmune disease that attacks my brain, and
yeah.
therefore my symptoms can be pretty much anything my brain controls, which is
I think
everything.
Uh,
it
I
depends on
just
your
feel,
audience and who you're talking to and how much what
Right.
nuggets or how little or much information you can give to them, whether they'll be
kids,
overwhelmed or they have all this time in the world and they're really, wanting to talk.
children,
I have
children
to
are my
say,
favorite to explain it to. I'm sorry,
I
Louise,
They
go ahead.
understand really well. They understand super amazing.
Louise,
I
you were
just
saying something.
hate explaining why do I keep saying life skills? This is crazy. I hate explaining MS to anybody. Life skills is what I used to teach years ago, like 100 years ago. So
So it makes sense to me that you're saying
It's
life
funny how
skills
the
because you're
brain
used to
works,
teaching.
Louise.
I
Yeah.
So
know, I know. I was at I just wanted to talk about brain fog because I was at an event and there was somebody, an Aboriginal person, explaining to me some really interesting information about the area that I live in. And I really liked this person and it was really interesting. But after a while of listening and listening and listening, my brain was just shutting down. And my first language is French. And then all of a sudden, I started responding in French to this person who doesn't speak French, you know, and or throwing wrong words in like I just did, like life skills instead of MS. And it's, yeah, brain fog is really such a crazy, crazy thing, isn't it?
It
all in
is. And
favor?
active listening like that, Louise, is very tiring. I mean, that's using your brain
Yeah,
really to pay attention and you're interested in it. So you're putting that much more energy into it, and that can be very tiring.
that's right. And when the other person is talking with no breaks, like it was not a give and take, where it was just like one interesting thing after another, after another, after another. And I was very interested and I really liked this person, but like you say, after a while, I just can't take it any, I think can't take it in, and also the constant eye contact. It was just I was afraid to look away. It's just
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
yeah.
I
I don't.
get very, very easily overwhelmed, if I have anything, it's too much in front of me. I have trouble doing it. I even have trouble going to Walmart.
Yeah.
Um, Sam's Club, forget it. Like, it's too much for me. I get way overwhelmed.
I used to
Yeah.
love concerts, right? Concerts. Now, could I go to a concert? There's too many people not paying attention to what they're doing so much that I'm going to get hurt at this concert.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
can't go to
I
concerts
go to
anymore.
a lot of concerts and I tend to find a spot on the outskirts, right? Like, so kind of behind the crowd. Back in the day, I was at the stage up front. Now I'm scouting a safe spot around the edges. Yeah,
Yeah.
a safe
Yeah.
area, Michelle,
Mm,
exactly.
that venue that I was at in March, where they had the person that signed ASL, they had a whole section for, disability or what have, and it was just really nice because they could enjoy it and they could see, but yet they were there was a wall in front of them, like around them, so they're kind of separated from the craziness of the general mission, i.e., people, oh, what do you call it, when they're moshing, and then the other thing that they do, crowd surfing, is the second thing.
Mhm.
So it was a
Oh, yeah.
I
safe
love a good
space
bit.
for them to be. Yeah.
I
That
I like
was
a good.
crazy. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know
Ah, the
this.
good old days.
Yes, the good old days where you drank a bunch before the concert, you paid like $1 for a beer at the concert, which the tickets were $6.50 by the way. And so you're drinking and you're really up front, and there's Ario Speedwagon right in front of you.
I mean, for me, it was The Cure, but yeah.
You know what? I like you even more. Thank you.
They would be a good concert to see. That's one of the reasons why my husband and I, when we go to tickets to see his shows that have the moshing and the crowd surfing, we have to buy tickets like on the second floor or have actual seats because
Right.
he's tall, so he doesn't want to he gets slammed in the head by all the body surfers, and then we just can't deal with the moshing and getting, you know, pushed around. And the temperature with the general mission is so hot because everyone's just crammed in there. It's like I can't do this
Yeah.
anymore. He still wants to see these bands. It's like fine, but we have to be able to be removed from the general crowd so we don't get. Because I
You,
don't know if you
you
guys have been knocked down in a mosh pit before. I got
oh
knocked
yeah,
down. I wasn't
oh
in the
yeah.
mosh pit, but the mosh pit got bigger, and then I couldn't get up. I had to have someone. My friend's cousin had to pick me up because I couldn't get up, and it was kind of
Been carried out
scary.
before. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
pits that I've always been in, if someone gets knocked down, we pick them up and we get them over to that safe space,
Yep.
and we push other people to make that. Mosh pits are good places, but if someone falls and gets hurt, you got to help them out. And I know
Yep.
you guys probably figured this about me, but I was a mosher. I used to love slamming around in a circle and just going and going.
Mhm.
My husband used to
But
be the same way, but we've now gotten older and like I don't really need that
yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
I've
we've
been
got
seeing all my favorite 80s bands lately have been making like I just saw Jane's Addiction before, they got into a fight on stage.
that'll
But
happen.
it was like at a stadium with seats. You have a ticket that has your seat. And that's the way I have to see it now. Back in the 90s, boy, my Jane's Addiction experience was way different.
My favorite concert of all time, I went to the summer I turned 40. It was not people that I really liked when I was a kid, but James Taylor and Bonnie Raitt. Holy shit. That was an amazing show.
Yeah.
I had a margarita out of a plastic guitar. This was an amphitheater, and we were sitting
Yep.
on the hill. So all the people are sitting, and the thing that scared the shit out of Melissa's, a guy handed me a joint. I just smoked it, passed it on. She's like, "Do you even know that guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's my neighbor." "What's the name?" "Hey neighbor." She's like, "I can't believe you smoked something that someone handed you." He said,
Yeah.
well, he
No.
he
Yeah.
he just took a big hit himself, and so we're fine. And it was just weed. It was just a joint because you don't
But
expect someone to
it's
put.
been in somebody else's mouth.
This was pre-COVID, man. There were no illnesses being passed around by anything.
Other
Well,
than herpes.
Yeah,
yeah.
the hurt.
Yeah, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and unless you're my age, you don't really understand what that means when somebody says they grew up in the 60s and 70s. So, the concerts we didn't have what you're talking about, but the joints were going by, and I can't believe that we did that. We have no idea where it comes from, and you pass it on, and more
Yep.
comes, and um, yeah,
And it just keeps going.
I
Yep.
know. Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah.
You're just building your immune system, right?
It made
That's
it so strong that it's attacking your brain.
The
Right.
the 80s artist that I got to see last year because she was opening up for Pink was Pat Benatar.
Nice.
Ooh,
And she
that's a
has
fun one.
long gray hair. She can hit the high notes. Super grateful to be there and enjoying every minute. And then it was with her husband. They now tag it about her and then Neil Sedaka. I think Sedakis is his name. And just she's been married to him since like the early 80s. And it was just so awesome to see her and go, oh my God, she has all these songs. I didn't even realize it was Pat Benatar. Like,
Yep.
that's your song. That's your song too, really? It's just like, my
Yep.
goodness, you had so many hits. But
Tons of
And
even
them. Yeah.
I,
but the
I'm
people
joking,
that
but
were the people that were watching were still like, milling around and getting alcohol, and they weren't really like focused on her because they were there for Pink. And I'm just like, guys, you are just totally missing an icon right now. Like, she's right in front of you, she's amazing, and you're just like busy in your own world and not like, I'm just totally missing out. But I enjoyed every second of her performance. It was just I didn't realize when I agreed to go to Pink that she was playing until later. And I'm like, oh my God, I get to see Pat Benatar. Yeah,
That's
exactly, Michelle.
awesome.
Hit me with your best shot.
my best friend in high school, after high school, he disappeared for 4 years. And then I saw him. I'm like, where have you been? He's like, oh, I was in Arizona learning how to run sound for bands and stuff like that. The last tour that he just got home from was the Alanis Morissette Joan Jett
Oh,
tour, and he was the stage manager. So his Snapchat
So
was awesome.
I
and they've
saw
been
Joan
doing
Jett
that. A,
at a street fair in Washington, D.C., probably back in the early to mid 90s. And we were all standing outside the stage waiting for her to
I'm,
come out, and this guy had this little boy on his shoulders, like, I don't know, 3 years old. And that little boy was over there just taking his fingers and just making sure that his fingers were exactly
just
right. And when Joan Jett started to play, he's on Dad's shoulders the entire time she was on stage. He was rocking it with his fingers out, and just it's one of my favorite memories.
hey, friends. Melissa just got home, and I'm going to want to talk to her about her doctor's appointment. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Love you all. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, or when the hell ever. Good luck,
it's in
Andrea,
2 weeks, October
Louise,
8th,
Kim,
8:30 Eastern
Michelle.
Time.
Have wonderful days. Okay. Bye bye.
Hi, John.
You too.
Bye bye, sir. Take care.
He's frozen.
He's frozen, so I'm
He
assuming he'll
is.
eventually leave. Andrea, did you
And
need to
I'm
leave for
about
training?
5 minutes from having to say goodbye myself.
Okay. Carmen says hello to everybody. She is actually doing her trial that she is in today in Vancouver, so she was not able to make it. So that's why Louise is the only Canadian today.
Yeah, we're getting smaller.
Yeah, we're getting it's still can be small but mighty. We don't have to be super huge to have good conversation
That's
and
great. Yeah, yeah.
understand. So it's not like, oh my I'm losing my people. We have to. No, it's okay. It's okay.
I
Sometimes
wish
it's
I wish I could
better
have
when
joined
it's
you.
a
I wish I
smaller
could have
group.
joined you. Yeah, I wish I could have joined you guys at one point because I went to Windsor when I was a really little kid and I loved it. And everything was right across from Detroit. So, but I said I should have just stayed. If I could have just immigrated to doggone Canada, I would have done that.
Okay.
I wish I could have done
What
it.
are you
Really.
doing in Windsor, Michelle?
Oh, we went to see it was the little park. It was a little areas, and we went downtown. It was very quaint. The little area was very, because it was like kind of Canadian. It was Quebec, I think. It had people were speaking French, at least when we went there. So it was, but you used to go right across the bridge in Detroit. I had family that lived there, so we went across there, and there's a little amusement park or something, as I recollect. I lost my glasses over there in a ravine. It was a little amusement park or something, but it was just a nice little area, and I loved it. And I said, oh, and I went. I was so stupid. I remember this distinctly. I got the little maple leaf earrings, they go in your clothes, and I put them in my ear. I'm so stupid. Walking around with a Canadian maple leaf lapel in my ear. I said, "You so stupid." And I mean, years later, that was so dumb. But I was so proud. Oh, Canada, yay!
Mhm.
Stupid person.
Well,
So,
we love American tourists here. I live in an area where we get a lot of tourists, and we
hmm
just love getting tourists from everywhere. But I just I'm learning the license plates, so I can predict a New York license plates from far away. So
hmm
it's really interesting. We really really love you guys. We like it when you come to visit us.
Well, y'all are heroes. I mean, you see how y'all are being depicted in The Handmaid's Tale, that fiction, but it's like, oh, escape America, run to damn Canada. It's like The Handmaid's Tale. I mean, that's a backdrop. It can some Canadian little town, just get away from America, run. So, it's like, God, it's hysterical. But yeah, I mean, y'all are our savior. So I mean, phew, if we knew then what we know now,
It
Well,
was
if we knew
disgusting.
that, we would have kept you, Michelle.
thank you. That would have been wonderful. And when I was young, I didn't like the cold, but knowing what I know now about how MS loves cold and doesn't like heat, I probably should have stayed if I could have. It's like, I'm leaving.
It
I don't
gets
know.
really hot here too, you know.
I know that's why I didn't. I couldn't deal with the cold, and I know it's crazy. I was raised in New York, but I actually met a guy from Brooklyn during the course of my life who left Brooklyn and went to live in Toronto. He loved it. He said he left 30 years ago. But that was like in 2000. He said, I'm never coming back. I said, I don't blame you. He went to Toronto and he loved it. I said, God. I said, but it's so cold. It's so cold. He said, it's okay. It's fine. I said, it's cold.
We get
My
climatized.
parents
Yeah.
live in Michigan. I have a hard time with the cold too.
Uh,
Yeah, that cold. It's not even cold anymore. It's blizzards. You don't even have snowstorms. You have blizzards. I mean, I dealt with that in New York, but God, being socked in, talking about I'm locked in for days. I can't get my car out. I can't get out. That's crazy. Yeah, you're right about declimatization. I would definitely do that. Um, but just the snow portion. But the
oh,
areas of the UP that's very much like that because it's close to Canadian border. The UP is. Ooh, there's an area up in the UP that's just like celebrated because they don't have cars there. They don't allow cars, but it's so hard. The winters they say are harsh. So
love
yeah,
to get snowed in, but of course
yeah.
I'm I have
If you have
nowhere.
all your amenities, yeah.
I have to take off, guys. Thanks for
Andrea, see you. Enjoy
Hi,
your
Miss
massage.
Andrea.
thank you. I'll see you in a couple weeks or
Okay,
Take
Yes,
care.
ma'am.
whenever.
See you.
Yeah.
next
Thank you.
time.
Is there anything you guys wanted to talk about today still that was on your mind or
I'm having a bit of a brain fog day,
hmm?
and we've got some company coming in 10 days, I think. So, we try to make the house look like we live like this all the time, you know.
I understand.
And so yesterday, I did too much. So today I'm trying to recuperate and still doing a little bit more. Um, there's no easy way to do that. So at one point we just have to give up and say that's the way it is. So
Yeah, I had to get to a point. So my mom would have a gal clean the house once a week. And I was instilled into my brain that no one could come over unless she had come, and no one's messed anything up. So it was like the pristine museum thing going on. And
yeah,
after years and years and years, I finally had to let go of, okay, am I not going to let anyone in my house because, oh my God, it's not like this perfect,
yeah,
unrealistic, or is it just like, look, I got hair because I have animals, come on in, and so I had to just let go of that perfection
that's right.
craziness
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
like, no, I would rather have people come in and hang out with me and realize, I live here and it's gonna get dirty and it's gonna get messy and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm not in a situation where I have garbage out for weeks or, it's just normal living in my house, nothing excessive. So I had to let go of that, but that took a long time to be like,
yeah.
oh, is this
And
acceptable?
everything here gets a lick and a promise. And so after a while, we need to get under that. So, but yeah, like you say, you just have to give it up because you know what, the company that's coming over, they're family, and that's not how they live. I mean, they live well, but they're not expecting that. So,
They don't want your energy to be sucked up with getting your house, perfect. They would rather make it the place, clean that, it's not like, oh, I don't want to sit on that toilet. That's disgusting. Like, you're a little clean, but not like, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
perfect. It's just, you walk into a hotel room clean, you know what I mean? So,
that's right.
yeah. And then I've had to learn to like doing like sometimes you do things and just doing it, lack of words here, like half-assing it versus like doing it perfectionate, perfect. Like, hey, I cleaned the toilet. It's not it's not perfect, but hey, I got it clean. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
And but that's also stress, and then again stress and MS, and then there's the physical um, work that we have to do to, I have to think and worry about it, and then I have to physically do it, and then the next day and the day after I crash. And I've been doing this for 33 years. So I'm
I've
slowly learning.
I've learned to like break it down into manageable tasks. And
Yeah,
example is if you clean the refrigerator out, it's not I gotta clean the entire refrigerator out in one shot. It's like, no, let me just do one shelf and then reevaluate. And if that's all I get done, then it was a win because it's cleaner than it was before. But I
that's
had to
right.
really change my mind frame about when you clean the fridge, it has to be all done all in the same time and like spotless. It's like, no, if you have hard stuff or there's still a little bit of hair because, it just won't wipe, it's fine. It's fine.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
how I mop the floor in quadrants. I say okay because it's the floor that I still my cousin that I stay at. It's kind of big kitchen, so I do it in quadrants in sections. I mop this area. I've swept everything. It's swept, but I just do this quadrant over here. Then I sit. And it takes a while to get dry. Then I go to another quadrant. I move on. So I do it in three levels of quadrants. That's how I break it down. So that's perfect. And you're right. So,
Yeah.
and the
And that
people
helps
come
out
to
a
see
lot,
you in your
doesn't it?
house. Definitely. And I tell people if you want to go to a museum, go to a museum. You live in a home, not a museum. People want to live in want to see a museum, go to a museum. So it's enough. It's not filthy because I'm an OCD, and I keep bleach everywhere and ammonia, bad combination. But you do what you can do just in little bit incremental steps. So, and hopefully everybody's happy.
So what about cooking? Like cooking here is can be really stressful because of the time of day, like supper time, you start thinking about it at 5, and I'm always open for some ideas on how do you prepare, like so that you I mean, I had beef stew this week and I had it for 2 days, and I thought, what a great idea, just to, what I'm trying to say is how do you prepare food ahead of time so that you're not preparing every night?
Well, I think with like the stew idea, a lot of times if you have a bunch of leftovers, you freeze it for later because that's a real easy meal to.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of Pyrex dishes that are just designed just to store like soup and stuff in the deep freeze. That's all there I use them for. For prepping food, the thing that helps me out a lot is I try to sit down and do all my prepping. So I sit down and I cut up all the vegetables and
Oh,
everything.
yes. Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
try to do that, which is kind of weird to do, but it really helps out, especially if there's like if I'm making my chicken soup and there's just so much chopping to do. That's not something I can just stand up and chop for 45 because I don't my cooking skills compared to someone that's worked in a restaurant is very very elementary. It takes me a long time to cook, cut up a pepper or an onion versus like the restaurant was like boom, like done in 10 seconds or something.
Oh, that's a
I
great idea. That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Another thing I do is if I can prep things ahead of time, I'll do it. So like the soup thing, I'll cut all the produce up, but then I'll go ahead and measure it out, stick it in a Ziploc bag, and then it's already pre-measured, so it's ready to go into the pot. It just saves me a bunch of time and steps.
And you do it
It's
sitting down, which is a great idea.
Yeah, I do it sitting down, and then I usually have like a piece of paper that I put tally marks on because if do you think I can remember if I put 1 or 2 or 3 cups in? No, no, brain fog here. So I tally on my sheet of paper when I dump a cup in, I'm like, oh, yep, I need 4 cups of carrots, and okay, I got 4 tally marks, we're good to go. I don't trust my brain to, even though I'm doing it, you know, no, don't trust it.
Well,
So.
you're very organized, Kim. You're really,
Yeah, and then I try to do with the cleanup part. As soon as I'm done with a dirty dish, it goes into the sink with hot water and soap, and it is starting to soak. Because the more that sucker soaks, the less I have to scrub. Because scrubbing
yeah.
equals lots of energy.
Right. It's interesting because I've never thought about prepping food sitting down. It would be really hard for me to do that. Really hard. I'd sort of have to completely retrain myself. It's like,
You do have
go
to
ahead.
retrain yourself because it's such a different, because you have to be. I don't like prepping at my high table on the bar stool because it's not as comfortable. I'd rather sit. Sometimes I have to drag out. I actually bought like a camping table when I do, and I set it up in my living room and then have drag in the desk chair because the desk chair is comfortable and then do it there. But
So
yeah,
you're,
Wow.
you're not chopping with your arms up like that, right? You're,
Yeah,
no, it's
you're
down
sort of
on the table.
it's
looking down. Yeah.
still low. The other thing that I wanted to say for you, Louise, is that I live on my own. So whenever I prepare food, I'm like faced with eating it for the next 6 days, and so which is which is not great. So I like what um, Kim said, which is to freeze
Yeah.
um, portions, and then all you got to do is defrost a microwave, and that makes it much easier. The only key with that is to make sure you label it properly,
Label
because
it and
I
date it.
label it and date it, because I go back to a story from literally 50 more than 50 years ago, when one of my two best friends was home during the university holidays, and he had this date, and he was going to cook for the date, and it all went great. And then he said, now I'm going to bring out a pie. And he brings out this beautiful pie, and it's all brown, and he sinks the knife into it, and it's a meat pie. he,
What?
he pulled the wrong pie out of his grandma's freezer, and so
Yeah.
What?
he got busted. He got busted.
The one thing I did with my deep freeze, because one of the fears I had with my deep freeze was I put things in it and then I would never get in there and I wouldn't know it. So I actually had a running list on my refrigerator of exactly what was all my deep freeze, how many different containers I had, and what the data was
Wow.
that went into my deep freeze, because I've seen it too much with like my mom and other people where they stick it in the freezer and it dies there. And it could be in there for years. It could be in there for like 10,
And
like
it gets really
forever.
dehydrated. Yeah, dehydrated.
Yeah, it's like it goes in there and you forget about it. And so that was another thing I did. And then that would also help me like, oh, I don't feel like making anything tomorrow. I'm kind of tired. Oh, do I have a soup in the deep freeze I can put in the
Right.
fridge and thaw out? So that's,
Yeah.
It's a
and another
great
thing to do
idea.
too, it's more expensive. If you don't want to do all that chopping, buy your produce already chopped up. Like,
I'll reach
don't.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was tough for me to prep, cook, clean up. To be able to do all three in one shot is tough, because
How
Yeah.
usually I
about,
get
how
really
about the
tired.
eating? How about the eating part, Miss Kim?
I am an expert at eating, as you can tell. I don't have a problem eating. I will get burned out on stuff quickly. That's why it's
Yeah.
important that I don't eat the same thing again and again and again. Because once I get burned out, I don't want to eat it for like 2 years. So,
Well,
like
do you
Chipotle.
eat for nourishment? Do you eat for nourishment, or do you eat for, as I tell my cousin, for that experience, if you will? I don't want to use that term, but I said, well, I don't eat for sexual experience. I'm being facetious, but some people have to
Yeah.
look at the food. It has to present well. I don't need a Michelin star of meal to eat. I'm eating for nourishment. That's it. So I don't
No,
know.
I
Some
don't
people
need
are
it
different.
to be
Do
I don't need it to be fancy. I don't feel
Okay.
comfortable when I do when there's fancy. I just feel like a fish out of
Mm-mm.
water. I don't like that. But I do like
Mm-hmm.
tasty food. I think a lot of food doesn't have to be fancy
Right.
for it to be really, really good. But no, I love to
Right. That's the
eat.
minimum.
I I
Right. Mm-hmm.
I still think I'm a teenage boy that has a bottomless pit. But my body, that's not the case. I can
No.
eat all day
No.
long. I love to eat. That's probably my biggest vice. I love to eat.
Well, both my
Well, it's
husband.
also what you eat.
Oops.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to
Both your
say,
husbands?
my husband and I, we both cook. So, like for tonight, my husband will say, "Well, what are you having for supper?" And he's having spaghetti, and I'm having chicken. And we both get in the kitchen and we do our own thing, and then we
Wow.
clean together. But the idea of sitting down, because working in the kitchen, we bump into each other. And sometimes he's got my favorite cutting board, and there's that kind of so sitting down and like I could organize my my food because we eat differently because I have a lot of I have celiac and a lot of food issues, but that's Kim, you are super organized. I don't know if I could get that,
Yeah.
but I'm willing to give it a try.
And then another thing I try to do, like sometimes I'll prep vegetables or part of it in the morning. If I got some energy and I got some time, just prep it, because I have the problem where it gets close to dinner and I'm hungry and now I don't have any energy to make
Yeah,
anything. I just ready to eat. So I usually have to start working on stuff before I get hungry, or else I'm kind of screwed, because like I get to the point where we call food eat now, where you're just like, I have to eat now. And but I do the same thing with you, like you and your husband, because my husband and I were very different when it comes to food. He eats like an 8-year-old boy, and I eat vegetables. So what we tend to eat tends to be vastly different. So I tend to eat
yeah,
single. A good idea, which I haven't done, but I'll throw it out there. It'd be really great to hook up with someone else that like makes a bunch of food, and then we can swap food. So it's not like I'm just
Ooh.
peppering my stuff. It's like, oh, you made this? Well, heck yeah, I want to eat that. And then like being able to like make each, because when people make food, it always tastes better, doesn't it? Like seriously. It's
Oh,
better with
that's
someone
such a
else.
great idea to have like
Yeah,
a big food swap.
yeah, have a
And
food
Yeah,
and
swap.
I love
I
that
will.
idea.
The only thing that I want from Louise is some really, really good poutine.
Ah,
oh God, poutine. Oh, even thinking about poutine, my stomach.
that's
There's
pretty heavy.
well, and apparently in Montreal, there's a restaurant where all they make is poutine, and
Wow.
and poutine is. Have you had poutine, John? You must have. It is so heavy and rich and
Yeah,
It,
you
it,
think of heavy and rich, you think of American foods, but my God, that feels it feels very American, even though it's Canadian, because it is so heavy.
it, it's cheese, French fries, and gravy,
and gravy. Yeah.
and it's amazing.
Oh,
Oh my God, this sounds dreadful. And I love Canadian. What? Oh my!
No,
And I can go belly them. I could probably go belly a place to send it to me because I do a lot of that. I get stuff from all over the country with Gold Belly, but poutine.
it's
I have to look.
it's it
look it
sits
up. Look it up
real
on
low.
YouTube.
Yeah.
The place that I went to had a little bit like spicy options here and there. But I didn't do any of the spicy options. I just wanted like poutine.
Where did you have poutine, John?
Whatever's across the river from Detroit. I can never
Oh,
remember.
We
Windsor.
were closer
yeah.
to the
And
Windsor.
border.
Windsor. We were talking about that earlier. Yeah, Windsor.
But they gave me a nice piece of cornbread with it. So good. Like it was the lightest part of the meal.
Miss Kim, I hope you're keeping good notes for when we write this up. I gotta put
I'm just
poutine
putting
in as a special.
I'm putting in their cooking, but I'm not gonna go into detail.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna
Now
have
look,
to
Kim,
watch the recording to get the details.
well, I'll tell people. We'll put it in there. Be sure to watch the recording for delicious details. Now, look here. I want to ask a question, especially of Miss Kim, because I think she's the only one that it's relevant to. But what did you think of that Genentech thing with being able to give you the Ocrevus with a injection?
Yes, I was thinking about that. I was like, Kim knows.
Oh, well, yeah, I actually did see that somewhere else too, Rick. You were the first one that told me, but I don't know. I see them doing, like, they say a 10-minute injection. So I'm like, are they going
Yeah.
to torture me for 10 minutes as they jam in? Like, how does that work? So I'm not
No.
worried about myself yet because my insurance is changing and I don't think it's as good, so I don't think that they'll authorize that. So I'm not gonna worry
Mm,
about it. And I have a very good, like, when I go to the hospital, it's like 12 minutes away, and it's a very chill experience for me. I get to sit in a nice
okay.
comfy recliner. It doesn't bother, like, it's not a stressful, thing for me. It's very easy. I don't have to drive far away.
So, we've been working with a gent who has pancreatic cancer and HER2 mutation, and he's been on two different drugs. I forget the first one because it's the older drug, but the second one is called Enhertu, and that is given with a 10-minute injection. And apparently, it's pretty easy. I mean, I just can't understand how can you like slowly press this thing for 10 minutes? I mean, how do you do it must be automatic. It must
I
be
think
some
it's
sort of
a I think it's a machine, just kind of like when Reba came out with auto injectors and things like that.
right.
It's the same thing. You like get it hooked up, and once it's all figured out, everything looks good, then they'll probably hit a button, and then it probably releases so much drug every so many seconds. And they can't,
Okay.
when you do an injection, you only can have, you can't do the huge amount of fluid like you do for an IV. You only can put so
Yeah.
much under the skin, so it's a small amount of fluid.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's interesting to have that option. I think there's going to be problematic with like insurance companies not
Yeah,
wanting to pay for it. That's just normal. That's normal though. But it's
yeah.
nice to have those options. I mean, when I was diagnosed, I mean, there was only 4 options or 5, I guess. And the pill was just coming out. Before it was all just injectables. And now you can do infusions, injectables, pills. And now you're doing the 10-minute injectable. And so, I mean, the options are nice.
Well, Ocrevus you can't get in pill form, right? Orally?
No, no,
No,
that's just IV, but now you can get it in the 10-minute
injectable.
injectable. Yeah.
You know, what you say the insurance companies may not pay, but it's probably going to be cheaper for them in one sense, in that they won't have to pay for the infusion cost.
Right. Well,
The
you're still paying for an administration fee, but in theory it
yes,
should be less.
yes,
But
exactly.
just because it's less doesn't mean that their weird hierarchy algorithm makes it more cost effective. And sometimes, like we were just, when Christy was in the hospital for like 30 days, it made no
Yeah,
sense to us. Like insurance doesn't always make sense to us because we're not the ones seeing
right,
what's going on and reimbursement rates and things
right,
like that.
right,
So
right, right. Does anyone else? Is anyone else on Ocrevus?
not that's on this call to my
No,
Yeah,
not
knowledge.
on the call, huh?
no one that's here.
Um, so the other thing that, as you may have known, I suspect Kim knows there's this conference going on about MS in Europe right now. So there's all these. I
I don't know
keep
anything
saying,
about it.
oh well, I've sent through about 2 or 3 things to go in the reminder, but one thing that caught my eye, which it's always been an issue that there's been no treatment for secondary progressive. There's nothing you can do. And there was a trial, yes, that was reported, I think, yesterday or the day before, which we're putting into the reminder, showing that tolobrutinib slows the formation of the lesions in secondary progressive.
Do you know why there's no drugs for secondary progressive? Like, do you want like
No,
the blunt?
please, yeah, no, please educate me.
It's because you're older when you get it, and then those people are
Right.
on Medicare and they don't want to deal with it. So if you do the drugs for the people that are younger, they're going to be on it for like 20 years. It's because the people that you're dealing with that are in secondary progressive tend to be older. You can't do like a lot of clinical drug trials won't do it on older people because older people have all these other co-founding, more comorbidities and things that they're dealing with and aging process and stuff. So because you're an older age, right away they're like, we don't want you, and then you're gonna die out. Like you're toward the end of your life. Are we gonna spend all this money on a drug? So that's a depressing answer. I'm sorry, but that's the reason why.
Yeah, but I
I knew
mean,
the answer to. I knew it wasn't. It's not cost effective. I knew that for them from their perspective. I already knew that. You didn't have to say
Yeah,
that, but
yeah,
thank you for
yeah,
confirming.
well, well,
yeah.
I don't agree that I wouldn't agree that it's not cost effective, because these drugs are administered continuously, and there are so many cancer drugs now where we're trying to turn cancer into a chronic illness, and if we do turn it into a chronic illness, it requires repeated administration. So I mean, I think they can make money. The issue as to how do you isolate the effectiveness when you've got a lot of comorbidities, I mean, again, they do it for other diseases. So yes, I hear you, but it doesn't make sense in the context of overall medicine. I mean, tolobrutinib was, I believe, it was approved originally for relapsing remitting, and has had some
Mm.
success in relapsing remitting. And now they seem to think this is a second use for it. Anyway, you'll see it. If you like, I'll put the link in the chat window as well. Um, and then I found a really good description of tolobrutinib on the UK MS Trust, the United Kingdom's MS Trust. There was a really nice. But here's the here's the link for I just put it in there. It was in Medscape Today yesterday. I'm sorry to hear about Melissa as well, John.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a bummer.
The
Yeah.
PT doesn't help, and I mean, for me, they didn't even do injections. They're like, they're not going to help you. So if it
Yeah.
doesn't get better, then
Yeah, it's a tough thing, but we'll figure it
yeah.
out. We rebound nicely.
Yeah, my buddy's gotten injections, and they have worked for him for a couple of years or a year, and then you got to deal with it again.
Yeah, yeah. But she's on a 25-pound lift limit, which makes some difference to how we live our lives.
So how does that? How have you guys found a different way of getting you in and out of bed without her assisting you? You have. Okay.
I'm doing a much better job at getting into bed. That she
Okay.
only has to like worry about one leg, and sometimes I get that up far enough on the bed that it's not. It just needs to be like kicked over like a foot. She said the hardest thing that she does for me is when I can't get my right leg up on my chair, she has to bend down and pick that up. So we're just gonna get another foot loop, like I use them to get into bed. But I have one in my walker next to my wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
For those rare occasions that happens, because it's on and off super often. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's super off often. Sometimes it's like, oh, it hasn't happened in like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But she feels very, very comfortable with her surgeon and very comfortable with her plan. We're just figuring out stuff, honestly, just to deal with me. But we got a front-loading washer, so guess who's been doing laundry this week?
That's exciting.
I'm contributing. I'm contributing. And says I'm the one that stains all the mats and sweats a lot in bed. They're my laundries anyway. So throw the basket on the ground, fill them in there, push with the front of my chair, like my legs, get down the hallway, over top of zero carpet, put it in. I can do it. So, and the thing that is sad is that Melissa can't really bend down to pick up her dogs. And we're going to buy a wagon for Banana because Melissa can't pick Banana up and carry Banana up down the ramp and out into the backyard to put her in her outdoor enclosure. I have
How much does
ideas.
Banana weigh?
Right now, like 13 pounds.
Okay.
But going down a ramp, holding that, it's tough. And she's not as big as she's going to get yet. So we're just going to get a little, it was like garden cart, to take Banana down in. But we're working on a lot of stuff.
Cool. I'm glad you're coming up with creative solutions to help Melissa prevent further issues with her back and to take a break from some of those
And
tasks.
my question is, why does Blue Cross Blue Shield not cover in-home care?
I can't. This is a great question about why certain things are not covered and are covered, and it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. Like, why does Medicare not cover dental and eyes? You have to get supplements for that. Why is
Those are
that?
some pretty important things to older folks.
So, yeah, and I don't think hearing aids, I don't think are covered by Medicare. So, just things like that. So,
Yeah, just normal things that we want.
you don't need your senses when you're older. When you're over 65, you're fine. You don't need
But
to hear and see and
you are eating
you're
mashed potatoes,
yeah.
and that's all you eat.
Uh,
Rick, you're in Arizona, correct?
Yes, sir.
what is in Arizona that is a really popular dish like poutine is? Like, are we talking
Oh,
Christmas
well,
enchiladas with fried
probably
egg on top?
what would be like probably a popular dish? Well, something Mexican it would have to be,
Okay.
and it
I
could be enchiladas. Oh, I know what, which I never eat because it's very peculiar to this. It's peculiar to this Sonoran area. Chimichangas. Ever heard of chimichangas?
Yeah. I mean, look at the size of my body, Risk. You think I don't know about? So chimichangas are like little burritos, but they're like deep fried.
Yes, they're big burritos, deep fried. They're not so little. They're big burritos, deep fried. Yes.
Oh, the little ones in the refrigerator section at Meijer. Sorry, I'll just say Walmart so everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I just know chimichangas back when Chi-Chi's had commercials on TV for chimichangas for the restaurants, which I don't think exists anymore. Sorry, Louise. I'm just like talking about stuff like, what is she talking about?
Yeah, I have
Rest,
no idea what you're talking about.
rest in
Well,
peace, Chi-Chi's.
Rest in peace, Chi-Chi's. Yeah.
you know
It
what?
was a
You know
Mexican
what?
restaurant chain.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what burritos are, right,
Yes,
Louise? Yeah.
yes, I
So
do.
they take
Yes.
these burritos and they plunge them into a deep fryer.
Wow.
And then
That
they put 'em- and then they put lots of sour cream on them and cheese and everything else. Right,
it
right,
doesn't
John?
sound
Look,
very
now
good.
his mouth is watering. Huh?
I spent a little time in New Mexico, so that's why I said Christmas
Yeah,
enchiladas with like a fried egg on top.
yeah, it's good.
I,
Yeah, yeah.
I would send all of you guys uh, pasties, not pasties. Those are for a different show. But pasties are little hand pies that have root vegetables in them, so like potatoes, rutabaga, stuff like that. And you dip them in gravy, and then your mouth just loves. And in like the fall or winter time, they just sit so low in your gum in your stomach, but they're so good.
You know what? Do you know what rutabagas are called in the UK?
Potatoes,
No,
soccer.
no. They wouldn't know if you asked for a rutabaga in a greengrocer or a supermarket in England. They wouldn't know what you were talking about.
What
What
would
are
I
they?
ask?
They, oh, wait a minute, Louise. Louise probably doesn't even know what. I bet they don't call them rutabagas in Canada. Do you know what a rutabaga is?
I know what it is, but I just know the French name, and Navo. So what do we call
No.
them? I think we call them rutabagas in English. Yeah,
We in England they're called Swedes.
Swedes. Okay, I would have never guessed that. Yeah.
Yeah, Swedes.
Wait,
Swedes are rutabagas.
so what do you call Swedes? Like Swedish people?
They're short
You
for
mean
Swedish turnips.
you're talking about
Oh,
somebody
yes.
from Sweden? You mean that
Yeah,
we call
yeah,
them a Swede as well? It
yeah.
has two uses, but we have Swede in England. When you go in, you have Swedes, you have turnips, parsnips, turnips, and Swedes. But Swedes are rutabagas.
I think we
So
call them turnips here, like that. You reminded me of that, Kim. Turnips or even rutabagas, but they're different, aren't they? They're
yeah,
slightly.
they're orange.
Yeah,
Rutabagas are like more of an they're not really orange like a yam say, but they're more orangey. They're sort of more of a much creamier color than a turnip that's white.
yeah.
Okay.
So there you
we
go. Apparently, Michigan and Canada are both known for potato dishes that involve gravy.
You really like gravy, John, don't you?
It's not bad.
it's not bad. it's not bad. Oh, blimey.
Sorry. Grew up in a Catholic household. Gravy was on effing everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I grew up with gravy also. Yeah.
You know that Michigan is both north, south, east, and west of Canada.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I could see that.
Just like Alaska is the most northern, western, and eastern state in the United
Yep.
States.
Yep.
Yeah.
Louise, in the U.S., they're called states instead of like,
Provinces.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got provinces here and northern territories also. So we have 10 provinces and 3 northern territories. I hope I got the territories right, but we got 10 provinces. Yeah.
I thought there was
Uh,
13, so that makes sense. The 10 plus the 3, that's where I got the
Yeah.
13.
Yeah.
when I was in a band, I would always announce our drummer. He's all the way here from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan,
Oh,
and people
yes.
would laugh at that because it's just a fun thing to say.
I think maybe Carmen, I might be wrong, but I think Carmen grew up in Saskatchewan, but I'm not sure. I shouldn't even be saying that because I'm not sure. But she grew up in the prairies. I remember that. Yeah. And I
The
shouldn't talk
prairies.
about Karen while she's not here to correct me. So,
Can I check in on someone that I haven't seen in a while?
Who's that?
Is Karen okay?
oh, I said Karen, but I meant Carmen. Sorry.
Oh
But
no,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
as far as we know, she is just fine. She's been into one or two meetings. She is a regular in the art class, um, but
Well,
not really sure what her reason is for not coming here. I think she watches every program. Make an appeal. She'll be watching the recording. Make an appeal to have her show up once every so often.
Karen, we really share an incurable chronic disease. I've known you for about 2 years, and what I really enjoy is what you bring to our group. Your artfulness, you're changing from being in New York to California. It's such a stretch. Like just the stories you have to tell us about your lift and all that stuff. We need that back in AnCan's life.
I
Rick
want to
is
say
begging you. Louise is begging you. Michelle, Kim, and I. Please just pop in and update us on you. Also,
something about Karen. I need to say something about Karen because I was
Yes.
thinking about her earlier today. Because 2 years ago, when I accidentally came across the AnCan MS virtual group and
Yeah.
just looked into it, and Karen was the first person talking, and she was talking about brain fog. And I didn't I knew I had something, but that's what convinced me. And from then on, I don't think I ever missed a session of the virtual group. And so, Karen, if you're listening, it's because of you that I committed myself to continuing. And you've got a lot to offer. And where are you?
and where are you?
Where
If
are
that
you?
doesn't That's right. If that doesn't guilt her out enough to show her face once every so often,
Hey,
I don't know what will. Miss Karen, you see, you missed. You
let's peer
missed.
pressure. Let's peer pressure everyone to coming back.
Well, it's interesting. I was just saying to Kim in the chat that everybody wanted this early meeting, and so we put in the early meeting, but we don't get the attendance in the early meeting that we get in the late meeting. So,
Yeah,
and I think maybe what's happening is people are more willing to watch the recording, but the recordings aren't as good when you don't have so many people,
yeah. Can I
right?
say something to that,
Yes,
Rick?
please,
Because
please.
I was someone who was like so excited about the afternoon meetings because at night for me it starts at 9:30.
Sure. Yes.
But I need to say that today I was starting to think that maybe it's a better idea to just stick to the nighttime. That's because I had to really work at arranging my schedule to be here today. And so I'm starting to have second thoughts about the afternoon group being easier, you know? I just wanted to say that. Maybe not everybody feels the same way.
A smaller group just means more intimate, and we end up bullshitting a lot. You
I
know,
was
like
gonna
I
ask. I was gonna ask Rick. We started that second group, the under 45. What's the attendance rate like that? I haven't been in that group, or I don't know anything about that.
That's a very good question, and if Miss Hannah is also watches this, she can pay close attention. We're still waiting for it to get off the ground.
Oh, it hasn't started. Oh, I thought it
No,
already started.
and
I'm sorry. I thought it
no,
was.
and I don't know. And funny enough, I was thinking about it yesterday, and I have to give or ask Alexa to give Miss Hannah a push because we want to see where it's going.
I'm very
You'll
interested in
know.
that. I'm very interested in that group, even though I am 45. I in my mind I'm still 26ish. So let me know, Rick. Okay.
Listen, we are not going to card people at the door. So you are very welcome. We hope you'll come. We hope Miss Kim will come. We hope a lot of people will come if we can get it up and running. You know, I don't know what's going on, but I will. I think Hannah losing her grandpa had some, put a glitch in things. But we definitely, and then I think the next thing that happened was that we lost a couple of moderators. So she thought she had five, and now I think she's now down to two or maybe three, and she was trying to see if she could add another moderator. But we need to get it up and running. It's very hard. Look, it's not hard to moderate a group when there's only four or five of us in, like today with one moderator, but it's very hard to moderate a large group on your own when there's all kinds of things going on, as Kim knows, because we've had some of those evening groups where we have 15, 20 people, and some of our groups we get as many as 50 people in a group, and there's just too much going on. So, but we'll keep you posted, Miss Kim, on that.
I'm sorry. I thought it was already going on. My bad. I thought it was already up and running. So.
Yeah, you're just talking about it. I'm like, oh my god, let me know when it is. I want to go next time.
Okay.
I'm also going to put a plug in again for aging with MS.
No, I know, but we can't get the little one, the young folk off the ground, and then when it comes to aging with MS, we're also going to have to put together a moderation team. Um, so, but it's definitely on our radar, and I think it'll happen. But let's get the young people off the ground first.
Rick?
Yes, you are definitely too young for the aging one. We
No,
won't
no,
let you
no,
in on
no, no,
that
no.
one.
Hold on.
Yes,
When I
yes.
turned 40 with MS, I know I'm aging with MS, so I could have used a group like that to kind of figure out what's going to happen, what's MS and what's just getting old.
That's right. Yeah. It's
So I'm
it's
just
like
saying,
if you're 50 years old, you're aging, and if you're 73, that's we're all aging with MS. So maybe even just having a discussion about it once we have a larger group where people can contribute their experience. I don't know. This is just a suggestion, Rick, and if it doesn't happen, then that's quite okay too.
it's a good level one idea. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
You know, it's a great idea. We all think it's a great idea, but getting a group off the
yeah,
ground is it's not as simple as you think it might be. So, for example,
I get it.
if we were
Yeah,
to do it, the same thing with our under 45s, we need to do it with another organization who has wider outreach than we do, which means we probably get if we can get the young folks working fine with NM National Multiple Sclerosis Association, NMSA, or Society, NMSS, then they'll be encouraged to work with us on an older group, because if we just try and do it ourselves, we'll get one or two people in there.
That's true.
So we need that outreach because
Yeah,
we don't get enough publicity. I
I
mean, look,
understand.
this group's a perfect example. I mean, you'd think we'd get more than half a dozen people on a, of a morning, especially with the MSs, but we don't. And that's because not enough people know what we're doing. Because if they did and they came in and they enjoyed it, they'd be back because it's a great experience.
But when I look at some of the previous recording and I look at the views, like the numbers are sometimes it's 70 people that watch one of the MS group,
Right. But in person it's lower. It's
yes,
and it's it's always, and the thing is the recordings are great, but they're not so good if you don't have enough people.
but
Because then
what I'm saying, Rick, is that again, like I'm I'm repeating myself, and I'm encouraging these people to join because
yes,
everybody has
yes.
because
It's
like we're supposed to be a snowflake disease but we're all different. So all of you that are watching, like you have a lot to offer. So I'm just inviting all these people to please. It's I watched. I was one of them that watched for 2 years, and then finally I decided to join, and I'm just not leaving. You're stuck with me because
God bless her.
the
God
What made you
bless her.
experience.
decide to get over the hump, Louise, and join in person?
It's very, very different because I mean you get a chance to contribute if you want to, or I don't
Yeah.
know, just being part of the conversation. Because when I was watching it, I wanted to say things. I thought, I wish I could contribute to that. So, um, I'm putting that plug in there.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, what about other MSs in your area? Do you know any, Louise?
No,
Can we pull
no,
any
I really
in?
don't.
Really?
But I live in a very small community,
Yeah.
and I know that there are maybe a couple of other women, young women that have MS that are what I hear. I don't know them, but what I hear is that they're struggling quite a bit with. So I don't
It would
know
be, yeah. It would be
them.
so great to. I mean, what about in Halifax? I mean, is there any way we can publicize this on a Facebook page or something like that so that
Oh,
we can?
maybe. Yeah, I know quite a few people in Halifax, so maybe if I just let me think about this,
Okay,
because I think,
perfect.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Let me give me some time to think about it and see what I can find out.
Yes, Miss Michelle, Nova Scotia. It's a long way from Atlanta
Yeah,
and much colder.
but it's just
I
one road.
know. I've heard. That's why I stay away. I love it, but the cold. But it could help. I don't know. They keep saying that one of the drivers is heat. Heat drives MS. One of the drivers, at least depending on the type, and that cold is better. But I don't know about you guys who live in the cold, but it still came about. It still happened. So I guess it didn't keep it away.
I
So
love winters. I love the cold. I feel much better in the cold. I love winter. Except in March. I get tired of it, but it still goes on for the month of March, at least where I live. But yeah, for me the heat is terrible, but I love winter.
so
Michelle,
it's better for
Mm.
you. It's better for your MS then. The cold is better for your MS then.
Much, much better. Yeah. And just now, like our we don't have the humidity, and it's getting a little cooler, and I'm realizing that, whoa, okay, I'm not as sick as I was this summer, because in the summer I was starting to believe that this was a permanent kind of feeling. So I love the cold. Yeah, I do. But I know not everybody does. I know.
Right, right. I mean, but if it helps my illness, I mean, I have to get over it. I mean, I'm not, knock on wood, in a chair yet, and I'm trying to stave that off. I'm trying to kill all free radicals in my body that helps the lesions grow. So I'm trying to control the narrative as much as I can, like I did for 17 years when it was gone, and I was still playing football and playing flag and that stuff, and still very active. So to have this come upon me like this, kind of like crept up, it was like, this is a bit much. And I'm sick. I have days when I'm sick of it. I'm just tired of it. Because I mean, it's just, again, you have to be, I try to be grateful about it. Because I keep seeing like all these athletes just found out, I mean, another neurological illness, not the same, but in the same way. Brett Favre was just diagnosed with Parkinson's. That's a neurological disease. Football player. So I'm like, all these people, these vibrant people who are now coming down with these neurological diseases. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But do you think any of his is due to the factor that he would get hit in the head constantly and due to
Oh,
injury?
definitely. I mean, yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think that's why Tony Dungy, actually, who was a football player for the Steelers, he was a coach. He refused, even while he was still coaching and active in the community, he refused to let his kids to play football. I said, oh, why is that? But you were a football player, but you don't want your kids to do it. Yeah, getting hit in the head and taking brutal damn collisions, I think is a definite factor. But of course, it's bad for business to say that. They've silenced doctors who came out and said that. Guy wrote a movie one time, a book about concussion, about the effects of football on these neurological illnesses and how they are precursors sometimes. And they want to silence this doctor, and but he found a connection, and he said, yeah. But again, football is big business. You can't have parents not letting their kids play football, and because then the whole pipeline would dry up. No Pop Warner, no college, no high school. I mean, they can't have that, so they had to shut that down. So, you know, but you have to look out for yourself, unfortunately, because the system is not going to look out for you. So, yeah. Um,
Yeah, I just saw that as well about Fave getting diagnosed, and yeah, I'm sure that it has to do with continuous concussions. I mean, you look at that. Who's the kid who had three big concussions and got knocked out last weekend with
Tua,
the
yeah, the Miami Dolphins,
yeah,
Tua, yeah, yeah, Tua.
yeah. I mean, three major concussions, and he says he wants to come back. I mean, it shouldn't be allowed. Shouldn't be allowed. I mean, they've got us stamped down.
Well,
Honestly,
they probably got powerful lobbyists. They probably have powerful lobbyists. I'm sure they do on K Street. So,
you
NFL.
know, I say whatever you will about pro wrestling. I love it. But pro wrestlers don't have insurance. They're not treated by the
Mm-hmm.
company, anything like that. So a lot of them get
Right.
concussions that go untreated forever. And there have been
Mm-hmm.
ways that one man's concussions manifested in the decision to kill his wife and son and then himself.
I was just gonna
Oh,
say Chris
Jesus.
Benoit. I was
Yeah,
just
so there's
thinking of Chris
no
Benoit.
concussion protocol at
Oh.
all. There's a
Right.
there's a John Oliver HBO special just about pro wrestling, and it's so sad. But just like that, like concussions, like why did they let that guy play if he had three of them? You know, we got to keep our brains safe.
Money talks, but money talks in America. I don't know how it is in Canada, but money talks here, and money's the only thing. America doesn't even have a purpose. It's just about money. That's all it's about. I hate to say that, but it's proven. I mean, I just
I'm
wrote
with
something today about why people are committing suicide. Why we're in the top 5 countries developed countries, the top 5 on the top 5 statistical list of people committing suicide. If things are so great in America, why are people dying? Pun intended, dying to get the hell out of here. That's a fact.
if America's
This
so
is so
great,
great.
rather homeless people. I know that they're
They,
homeless.
yeah.
can be a choice a little bit, but most of it is not like wanted.
I know.
You know,
I know, John. I didn't lay myself off when I was still very healthy and still had my mind and still had great reviews. I didn't destroy my career. You're right. And end up in a situation where I had to leave the place I was in because the owner had to sell it. No, you're right, John. I did not make myself homeless. Oh, what they call unhoused or housed, but the same thing. So not in my own domicile, which I had for 13, 14 years. So you're right, John. A lot of us do not choose to be homeless or on our own.
but there's
So,
certain
but it is what it is. Yeah.
I had a homeless friend that wanted to be homeless on purpose because he didn't want to have to, pay for electricity, the whole thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that's so uncommon, you know. And if
Very
America's so
much.
great,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. If America was so great, blah blah
Right.
blah 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 blah.
Exactly.
Give me $1 million
Propaganda.
to cover it.
Propaganda. We're the masters of propaganda. Edward Bernays. Yeah, look up his book. Edward Bernays, Propaganda on Steroids. That's who we are. But you come here and you live the life and you see something different. Yes, Miss Louise. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's
No, don't be sorry. Don't say that.
o'clock
Yeah.
here and I need to go and chop vegetables. So I
Okay.
will see
Try to sit
you
down while
next
doing it. See
time.
how it helps you.
Thank you
See
so
you,
much.
ma'am.
Okay, sorry,
Thank
Michelle,
you.
for
Love you,
interrupting.
Don't
Louise.
say that. No, 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 Miss Louise. Don't say sorry. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. See you, Rick. See you, everybody.
Yeah, our meeting is in
See
2
you.
weeks, October 8th at 8:30
8:30.
Eastern Time.
Yes, ma'am.
It's good to see everybody and hope to see you in 2 weeks. And those
Yeah,
people that are
All
watching
right.
that want to come and join us in 2 weeks.
we don't bite.
Thank you.
Much.
No.
Bye, everyone.